Hey guys, I'm Adorn Light Elements. I am a self care coach, boundaries mentor, registered nurse, and I talk about all things healing and spirituality. Make sure you subscribe by hitting that button below and make sure you tap that notification bell so you won't miss any of my videos. I am setting intentions for this video to be a lighthearted, insightful, ooh, that Palo Santo strong today, baby, and educational, so you can look at people pleasing and self love in a different perspective. This video is for educational purposes only under the Fair Use Act. All clips and images belong to their respective owners. Now let's get started.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, alright, that's fine. Okay, I'm feeling too sexy to accept requests.
So if you tuned in last week, you watched Craig from Friday be a people pleaser. This is the next video in my self-love lesson series. The people spoke. Y'all said y'all wanted to talk about Set It Off. So here we go. We are going to talk about the biggest people pleaser on that movie. TT. Tishon. So if you've never seen Set It Off, I need you to go watch it. But this is about four friends. Three of those friends worked at this place with Luther, custodial services, right? And it was Stony, Cleo, and TT. From the beginning of introducing TT into this movie, Luther was being so disrespectful to her. He promised that he would pay under the table for her. She needed money to pay for babysitting services. And he said, "Shut up and take what I give you." It's crazy because after that whole ordeal with Luther degrading Tashawn, Stoney said, "You gotta start learning how to stand up for yourself." That shook me because right away I'm like, okay, TT is the biggest people pleaser. TT was desperate. She was in a survival mode. She was a single mom. She didn't really talk that much. Very sweet, very kind hearted, very innocent in a lot of things. You can tell that she didn't really know who she was. TT was kind of like the younger sister of the group. And then you have Vivica Fox, which is Frankie. Vivica Fox worked at a bank. At the beginning of the movie, they had someone took some money from the bank, and she got fired because they thought she might have had some involvement. This created a trauma bonded friendship. Can we talk about it? Can we talk about it? This whole group of women had some struggle of their own. Okay, we're gonna get back on TT, but let's talk about Cleo. She was, of course, of the LGBTQ community. Didn't have nothing to lose ever. She was anything low vibrational, she was down for. Stony was trying to pay for her brother to go to college, which ended up being killed in a mistaken identity by the cops, and that also caused so much trauma for her and healing. Vivica Fox had no idea about this robbery because she knew the dude that was doing the robbery. She was guilty by association. Like they all would sit on the roof, get high, and just complain. And not only that, they were working in custodial. Like they didn't have enough money for their life to even progress. They were constantly in a state of, what am I going to do the next day? Everybody protected TT to an extent, but they also controlled her. TT and Stony were both on the fence about the robbery to get themselves out of this, lifestyle that they were living. I would say Frankie was the biggest manipulator of the group because Frankie had ulterior motives to rob for revenge. I think she wanted money, yes, but also she more so wanted that satisfaction because they took her job, so she's going to take their money. Cleo just living life. She was down for whatever. But Stony needed that money. TT needed that money. And so they convinced Stony and TT. TT pretty much was a follower of Stony. So whatever Stony did, TT did it. And the breaking point of when TT decided to go through with the plan was when she lost her son. She brought him to work with her, and the son got into some fluids, some cleaning solutions, and CPS took her son. And it was so crazy. Like, they literally, at the hospital, to manipulate this girl, they got in her face, her friends, and was like, "You know what you gotta do. You know what you gotta do." Like, you're trying to convince her to rob a bank at this point when she literally just lost her son to the system. Losing her son was TT's worst nightmare. She wanted to do anything in order to get her son back, but she didn't have the heart. The very first time of them deciding to do this and take money, TT ran out the bank and did not participate. TT TT ran out the bank, and Stony, Frankie, and Cleo did it. It even got to a point where they knew how bad TT needed the money more than anybody, because Stony brother had already been unalived. Um so yes, Stony did need money, but TT needed that money. She had a son that was still living, that she was trying to make sure that she can be seen as a fit mother. And Stony and Cleo were both like, hey, you know, shoot, you my girl, like, look at all this money. Look at this. We did it. Like, we did it. And Frankie was like, we ain't do nothing. Like, we ain't do like you ain't even participate. And Cleo, even Cleo, her with her crazy tail, she was still there, like, they like.
TT needs more than
And
any
it was a way of TT standing up for herself, and she told Frankie, "Look, you can beat my if you want to beat me up, but I need this money." And Frankie said, "You know what? I ain't even mad at you." Cleo joked around and was like, still ain't do shit. I mentioned earlier about these women, except for Frankie, working for Luther. It was their manager. And they also hid the money at their job, which was, I don't know, that wasn't very smart of them, but Luther found that money. And Luther went splurge on different vices. The girls rolled up on him while Stony was out on her date, um vibing to In Vogue. In a bind, Luther was about to harm Cleo. TT unalived Luther. I feel like this was a big turning point for TT, because she was just in too deep at this point. She's completely lost herself in everything that they were doing, when she really just wanted her son back. But now you could possibly have a case on you, even though they didn't think TT did it. Ballistics, forensics, and all that could have played a part. Maybe I'm thinking my nurse brain, but TT was completely into this lifestyle that literally she had no idea what she was doing, running out of fear, running out of desperation to get her son back. This is the same woman that ran out of the first bank robbery. The same woman that's they're sitting there, and they're trying to play Godfather, and she's at the table. I hated that. I hated that this changed her so much. And ultimately, when you sacrifice yourself, you really sacrifice yourself. Purely out of desperation and greed again, because they had lost all the money. Ultimately, TT was the first one to get hurt by police. I cry every time I see this scene, because even during TT fighting for her life, them trying to get her to some type of hospital, her and Stony bonding again, her telling Stony, Keith gonna be mad at you. I thought about her son. TT literally, as I get chills just talking about this, TT had a court date the next day to get her son back. And all because she allowed these three women to pressure her into doing something for money that she could have received in another way. She could have got that money in a different way. Like, it just wasn't her character. It wasn't her heart. She couldn't stand up for herself. Ultimately, Stony closed her eyes and they went about their business to try to get away. She never wanted this life. She felt obligated to help her friends and she threw everything away for them. And now it's another motherless child wondering what happened to my mama. I talk about boundaries, I talk about self love, I talk about people pleasing, but this is the dark side that you can't reverse. TT stayed at a toxic job. TT allowed people to talk to her any kind of way. TT allowed her friends to pressure her into doing something that she didn't want to do. TT put everything and everyone before herself until she had nothing left. She shouldn't have even been in that room in the first place. She was so innocent and so bright. She was the hope of the friend group. TT had a child. Nobody else had a child. That's the real tragedy. You spend your whole life trying to prove yourself to people and friends and your managers, whomever it might be, and then you end up losing everything, even yourself. If you've ever put yourself last for people that wouldn't do the same for you, then you've been a TT too. But let me tell you, self sacrifice is not self love. I hope you guys enjoyed this analysis in my self love lesson of Set It Off. I know I enjoyed filming. But I want you to remember to tune in next week because the second on the list was Juice. Y'all wanted to see Juice. Now I wanna talk about Juice because we're gonna talk about the biggest people pleaser on there as well, and it's not who you think it is. So as you go on about your day, being the empath and healer that you are, I want you to remember boundaries do not dim your glow. They protect it. See you next time. Bye.